Today's video is 4 reasons why I think that you should not buy a Nord drum. Now, let me start by saying that I love the Nord drum and it is the best instrument that I've ever owned. I have probably bought and sold about 20 to 25 pieces of gear, and this is the one thing that has remained. Currently, I don't have any other hardware instruments except for the Nord drum, and I'm not selling it. But this video is for folks who are looking to be talked out of buying a Nord drum for one reason or another. So I'm just gonna give 4 cons or 4 things that maybe might sort of lead you to a different direction. I don't know. Here's the first reason why I think that you shouldn't get a Nord drum. And I recognize that this is sort of stupid, but it distresses me. If you want to connect it to your computer, you're going to need MIDI in and out. You're also going to need stereo out. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cables. If you connect it to a kick pedal, these right here, you're going to need another cable, and then you got to plug it in with power. On the back of this thing, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cables running out the back of it, and it's a mess. It's terrible. Hold on, look at this. This is a nightmare for me. I recognize that this is sort of silly, but it makes a difference, I think, whenever you can just sort of plug in one cable and you can just roll. Whatever. It's a small thing, but it drives me crazy because I can't deal with this. It's too much. There's some really great content out there about the Nord drum, and I'm sure that you've probably seen a lot of it. 2 videos come to mind. One of them is a video that Jeremy from Red Means Recording did, and then also User-Friendly Sounds. If you haven't checked out User-Friendly Sounds, you should check out the work that he's doing. It's super sick. But in both of those videos, they are sequencing the Nord drum. They're not playing it. And that brings me to tip number 2, or reason number 2, why I think that you shouldn't get a Nord drum. I think you could save yourself a little bit of money if you went with something like the model cycles. You could get like 3 or 4 model cycles for the price of 1 Nord drum, and it sort of functions the same. You've got 6 different channels that can be addressed separately on different MIDI channels. You can play the notes chromatically, and you can sequence them from your DAW or from another external sequencer. And it sounds really, really good. Another alternative that would be free if you have Ableton is using Ableton's drum rack. And I would suggest downloading Synth 1, which is a Nord Lead 2 VST. And it's like vintage now because it's from 2002 and it sounds great. You could drop Synth 1 into the different cells within drum rack, and then you can use an external sequencer, or you can use Ableton's sequencer and sort of get the same sort of thing. You can map to the different parameters on Synth 1, and I think that you wouldn't be that far off from the sound, especially with it being a Nord modeled VST. Hopefully that makes sense. If you're not playing drums, if you're not really invested in playing the drum pads, it's not something that you're looking to learn, I think that you could save yourself a little bit of money by going a different direction. Reason number 3 why I think that you shouldn't get a Nord drum is that finger drumming is not really that far away from drumming on the pads. I'll show you an example of what I'm talking about, and I feel like it sort of piggybacks off of the previous tip. I've been playing drums for like 2 decades, maybe even longer. And honestly, oftentimes whenever I go to program something or if I'm producing something, I'll just go to my push or any other sort of grid controller. I'll even sometimes just use like the keys on the key step and I'll just drum it out there. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. I'll play something on the Nord drum and then I'll play it on the push, and you can just see that like it's really not that big of a difference. One of the things that you're not going to be able to get from the drum pads is that you're really not going to be able to roll. There's some controllers that have like roll settings and stuff like that, or you could just set up one pad where it's, you know, got like an ARP on it, so it's already doing its own thing. This is another money saving thing, but I feel like you could get something like the Launchpad Mini. You can get a brand new one for 110 bucks, and it will come with a version of Ableton Live Lite, which will give you a drum rack, and then you can drop in Synth 1 into it so you could still sort of get that Nord feel. If you wanted to get the Push 3, so then that way you were standalone and you had a standalone device that didn't need 6 cables running out of the back of it, that would also be an option. I think it's probably like 1,200 bucks. I can't remember from the last video, but you might be able to get a used Push 3 for like the same price as a Nord-Drum. It's just an idea. Last reason why I think that you shouldn't get a Nord-Drum is that it's expensive. It's super expensive. Just the Nord-Drum itself is going to be $1,000. And then if you get a stand, the stand that I have is the Simmons support stand. That's $100. And then if you're going to get a kick pedal for it, and if you do get a kick pedal for it, you should get the KT10, the Roland KT10. It's the best kick pedal for electronic drums that I've ever used before. And if you live in an apartment, it's going to be the most quiet solution. But if you get that, that's going to be $300. And then you're going to need to get 2 MIDI cables. You're going to need to get 2 1/4-inch cables. If you have the kick pedal, you're going to need to get 1 TRS cable. So that's 450 bucks on top of your 1,000. So you're talking $1,400, almost $1,500 just for a Nord-Drum. If you don't like cables, and you aren't a drummer and you don't plan on drumming on a Nord-Drum, and if you already have things that you can finger drum with, that's a lot of money. There's a million different things that you could do with $1,500. You could probably buy every Behringer synth that has ever been made. You could go on a trip across the country. I don't want to sound preachy, but this is just some advice that I would give to myself whenever I'm thinking about buying something and I need somebody to talk me down from buying something, that I already have gear that I can create music with, and I could use that $1,500 for something so much better. Like, say for instance, if you're somebody who produces, mixes, and masters your own music, maybe you could offload that final task, like mastering, to somebody and further develop a relationship with a mastering engineer, and then you have somebody else who's invested in your music. I mean, whatever it is that makes sense for you, but you know, it's expensive. Okay, so to sum it all up, the Nord-Drum is the best instrument that you could ever buy, and you should buy one if you want to get one. But if you need to be talked down from buying one because you already are buying so much stuff and you already have tons of gear that is just collecting dust, here's a couple of reasons why I don't think that you should get a Nord-Drum. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. I have an album on Bandcamp called Precipice. It's old. It's like a year old or so, and I'm proud of it. So if you get a chance, check that out. And me and my partner Abigail did a 2-song EP called Third Order Sim. That's also on my Bandcamp, and I'd be grateful if you took some time to listen to it. I'm currently working on a 5 or 6-song EP, and I just have to find the motivation to wrap it up, but I'll promote that as well. And bye. Watch this. Okay.